Now, before we go, just time to say goodbye to the legendary newsreader Jonathan Izard, who is doing his last shift with us today. Jonathan has been reading the World Service News since long before I was here. 37 years, in fact.
Yeah. Don't rub it in.
Well, not that you believe it, to look at him. Today, he's dressed in the traditional newsreader attire of black suit and bow tie, offset with a touch of modernity and a pink tutu. At times like this, though, we like to play a blooper reel of all his mistakes, but he's such a professional we couldn't find any. Nevertheless, fellow newsreader Fiona MacDonald does recall one momentary lapse a couple of years ago.
Back in Bush House, Jonathan and I were presenting News Desk on an overnight shift. It was around 4 a.m. when there was a clip of the UK's oldest man and his 76-year-old daughter on. Both of them had really high voices and we both completely lost it. Jonathan couldn't read the newspaper review for laughing. He handed back to me and disappeared under the desk where I could still hear him chuckling away. And it didn't stop. We cried and hiccuped our way through the rest of the programme.
It's true. I remember that now. It was horrific.
But you've obviously improved because I've never seen you do that. But you've been here since 82.
Yeah, 1982.
How's it been?
How's it been in a word? It's impossible to sum it up. I think that it's privilege as well as sometimes a pleasure and always a deep honour. It's a strange kind of job. It's such detail to perfection, aiming for perfection every half an hour and mostly not getting there. You know, occasionally I will say to one of my colleagues, that's okay, that bulletin, you can play that one at my funeral. I'll be happy with that. But often people say, thank you very much, that was marvellous. And I say, no, I didn't like the way I breathed before that word or the inflection of when I said Argentina. I didn't quite like that. There's always something that you feel could be improved. But the good thing is, half an hour later, you can have a go at that.
Have another go.
And then you walk out of the building and it doesn't matter. It doesn't stay with you. Unless you've made a complete and utter, mess of something, then you kind of have nightmares about that. But actually, speaking about the nightmares, I still have panic dreams about, bits of paper with no words on, and I spin this ridiculous story that is neither true nor false.
Jonathan, many thanks indeed. Stay with us because Jonathan will read his final news summary on the BBC World Service in just a couple of moments. That's it for now from the Newsroom.
BBC News with Jonathan Izard. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appealed for calm as protests against a new citizenship law continue to spread across the country. He accused vested interest groups of stoking the unrest. Students in cities across India have joined the demonstrations, complaining that the law undermines India's secular traditions. Others fear it could invite large-scale immigration. The Chinese authorities have urged the English Premier League footballer, Mesut Ozil, to visit the Xinjiang region after he criticised the detention of Muslim Uyghurs. The Foreign Ministry in Beijing said he had been deceived by fake news. The Chinese President, Xi Jinping, has backed the police in Hong Kong as pro-democracy protests in the territory continue for the 7th month. Mr. Xi made the comments at a meeting in Beijing with Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam. The estranged wife of Zimbabwe's Vice President, Constantino Chiwenga, has appeared in court in Harare to be charged with attempting to murder him. When Mary Chiwenga was arrested on Saturday, police said she was accused of fraud and money laundering charges totalling $1 million. The authorities in Rwanda have begun demolishing hundreds of homes in the capital they say are at risk because of climate change. Officials say they need to protect people from flooding and landslides following unusually heavy rains. The French government official in charge of overseeing major planned changes to the pension system has resigned. Jean-Paul Delevoye had failed to declare a number of paid and unpaid positions he held, leading to allegations of potential conflicts of interests. France has suffered nearly 2 weeks of strikes over the pension reforms. And fresh talks are taking place in Belfast to try to restore devolved government in Northern Ireland, where the main Unionist and Republican parties are under pressure to work together again. The local administration collapsed nearly 3 years ago. Well, that's our latest summary, and it was my last. I read my first World Service News Bulletin in 1982, and today I bow out. It's been a privilege and an honour to work at the BBC, but now that's the end of this BBC Newsreader.